right, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day. And kind of like the China and McLean video, this is me kind of catching up on last week's news. Due to Thanksgiving, I took a break from the channel, and I just wanted to follow up on some big stories that broke while I was at home taking a break. And before going further in the video, make sure you take a moment to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, click the bell notification icon, and select all. That way you are not unaware whenever I post things to the channel, and follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Guys, I just finished watching Dave Chappelle Unforgiven, about 18 minutes long. Pretty good breakdown. I mean, I've watched plenty of it, believe it or not. Before watching Unforgiven, I had watched at least half a dozen videos where different podcasters, radio stations, or whatever, Comedy Hype, Breakfast Club, Double Toasted, and then a few other website on YouTube channels where they talked about the Dave Chappelle situation. Basically, long story short, Dave Chappelle asked his fans to boycott him, not Netflix, not HBO Max, not Comedy Central, boycott the Chappelle Show. He basically goes into, Dave just has a way of breaking stuff down for anyone to understand. And I don't even want to make it seem like he's dumbing it down, but he literally he knows how to tell a story. I think him and Richard Pryor are some of my favorite comedians who, are great storytellers, because they make you feel like you are directly involved in the story they're trying to break down. But in any case, he talks about how when he was younger, I believe he was around 28 and he was expecting to become a father soon when he signed the paperwork with Comedy Central / Viacom for the Chappelle Show. Now, back in the beginning, he talked about 2 or 3 times he learned different lessons about when he was an up-and-coming comedian and he let an older comedian borrow a joke, but then he learned the hard way that when somebody's bigger and whatnot and more intimidating, they can just kind of take what's yours. Or another time when he had $60 to entertain one of the baddest bitches he had ever known coming into town to spend the week with him. And what's the card? 3-card money. He learned that he had been scammed. Like, the individuals who were hooping and hollering and playing the game, they were part of the act. So basically, they were willing to wait for a sucker to lose his money, and then they would all, eat from the same table. And he pretty much, screamed out to the next guy coming up, "Hey, it's a trap. They're all in on it." And then the one dealer put the fear of God in him. And then in that age, he learned that, hey, you know what? If somebody's bigger than you and more intimidating, they can, take what's yours. And to demasculate a man is almost the same thing as murder or killing him. So basically, the third example is when he signed a deal with the Chappelle Show. He needed a way out because things were tough. It wasn't the best deal, but the executives and his lawyers and whatnot were pretty much, all shaking their heads like, yeah, this is a great deal. And he thought, well, dang, who's to say that this wasn't the same deal as the card game where everybody in the room, except for me, was in on the con, and what looked like a good deal for me, honestly, was crap. And it would feed the other people at the table, but I'd be only getting the scraps. So from there, the Chappelle Show, which people thought that he was making a lot of money off of, he wasn't, because technically it wasn't his show once he signed on the dotted line. And, he pretty much originally came to the network with the show, but then they're like, what do we need you for? Next thing you know, they do the Chappelle Show. And it really reminded me of Wild 'N Out, because apparently, Nick Cannon had sold basically the product or the corporate, let's just be Wild 'N Out itself as a corporation, to Viacom. Like, I remember when the whole thing went down a few months ago when he made those, quote unquote controversial statements that got him pretty much, kicked out of Wild 'N Out. A lot of people were shocked that even though it says Nick Cannon's Wild 'N Out, it really wasn't Nick Cannon's. So the same with the Chappelle Show is like, people assume that, well, if your name is on it, but like Dave said, when you sign these contracts, your name and likeness, that doesn't mean you own a damn thing. So that's wild. but I remember leaving comments on different videos and, kind of sparking discussion. And I actually like it because one thing I've been doing more of is commenting on other YouTubers videos, not to troll, but sometimes I might leave little lengthy comments to give my 2 cents on stuff. So I know, like on Choice TV or Saturday Night Live or The Breakfast Club, I see some of y'all over there. It's like, Jeremy, I didn't know you watched SNL, or Jeremy, I didn't know you also like Choice TV. It's pretty fun. So here's a comment I left on, this is from The Breakfast Club. This was back on November 25th. Here's the comment I left. And this is their take on the situation involving Dave Chappelle asking fans to boycott. And again, this is just my statement. Once you sign on the dotted line, a deal is a deal. Whether it be Taylor Swift upset about not owning her masters or having the chance to buy them herself, New Edition getting screwed over multiple times by the record labels or record companies they sign with, trust me, not to mention all the countless examples in the music industry, acting game, comedian circuit, or whatever outlet has something involving one party signing a deal with another. Legally, it is quote unquote fair. However, morals don't always overcome money in the cutthroat reality of Hollywood. I'm sure in the long run, this was the great move on Netflix part to remove the Chappelle show, because if there is another deal that they can offer Dave in the future to bring them new specials, there is a much better chance of him agreeing to do so, because they did something to make their star comedian happy, because they are aware of how much Dave brings to their platform in regards to traffic. It's a good thing he has such a great relationship with them. And I have to once again say that they figured it was the best move, not just for Dave, but also the long-term aftermath of what that decision will do in order to bring more views to the Netflix platform. I saw some people on, okay, this might be a bit controversial, but this is my 2 cents on this. I saw some people online trying to compare this situation to Monique. They are not the same. Dave was asking people to not support his show on Netflix or, comedy, basically on streaming networks, while Monique was asking people to boycott Netflix entirely. Not to mention, this also shows how much more power and pull Dave has than Monique to pull this kind of maneuver. I've been seeing all kinds of comments on the videos like Dave Chappelle is the only person that can cancel Dave Chappelle. I still got my Chappelle Show DVD, so I ain't tripping. I actually have mine. When I was at home, I looked at my shelf. I remember it was at Goodwill. I think it was the Goodwill up the street, actually. I bought both seasons. They had both seasons of the Chappelle Show. I actually bought the complete series at Walmart years ago in the DVD set, but I figured, oh, well, Goodwill's cheap, so I just bought. They were both separate seasons. I got them, so I got mine on DVD. But my attitude is, here's the thing I like, when it comes to like the Taylor Swift and the Dave Chappelle, I'm not going to say it's wrong for them to feel the way they're feeling. But at the end of the day, once you sign the dotted line, that's a wrap. Look, I feel like I can speak on this because as this person in student debt, I know what it's like. I love the Unforgiven, not special, but the almost like the announcement, if you will, because Dave is like, what I'm doing here is what not a lot of people have the balls to do. I'm basically whistleblowing the monster that is the industry. And pretty much the fact that they will wine and dine you, but screw you over in the end. And, this was just a power move. I don't know what else to say, but the fact that he said that the Netflix, was streaming it, it made me mad. So I just called him up because his agents said they weren't able to do anything. It's like, fine, you know what? I'll go a step above that. I'll go to you all, the fans. And then he called Netflix and it's like, hey, it doesn't make me feel good. And Netflix took it down. And that just shows the kind of relationship that Dave has with them, because can you imagine, like, I don't know, just being the creator more or less of a show or movie, but because of the paperwork you signed, you aren't being, compensated with anything. And you go to the streaming platform like a Netflix or HBO Max, you give them a phone call and you say, hey, I don't feel good because I'm not being compensated for this show that I created. And they just pull it off. Like, he went above the people who legally have the right to stream the platform now. I mean, stream on their platform now. I believe, he's still battling it out with Comedy Central and whatnot, but Dave is also showing the willingness he is to talk with the people. Like, and I don't want to rag on Monique in this video. I don't want to make it seem like I'm coming at her, but I'm just looking at how Dave is approaching the situation different to Monique. Like, yes, Dave is whistleblowing. He literally said what he's doing, but at the same time, he showed a willingness to work with the individual, because like he gave him the benefit of the doubt, because hey, I mean, a lot of the people who I signed the paperwork with, most of them probably don't work there anymore. They probably got Me Too'd, and there might be a bunch of young people working in these positions now, and they don't know what went on. But go down to your accounting offices, pull up the paperwork, the numbers, the amount of money that, Viacom or Comedy Central drew in for the Dave Chappelle show, and looked at how much I got, and let's see if we can work this out. So he's willing to work. Whereas Monique pretty much wanted to shut Netflix down, like, hey, boycott Netflix because I'm not being paid enough. Dave was like, just boycott me and the show. So I hope things do work out for Dave, but at the end of the day, it is a cutthroat business. So when it comes to like a Taylor Swift trying to fight for what, well, not her, they aren't her masters because she signed the paperwork, they aren't hers, or Dave Chappelle signing over his show. If nothing else comes from this when it comes to Dave or Taylor, I just hope that up and coming artists, comedians, actors in the game learn to read those contracts. Because more often than not, when people sign on the dotted line, Dave says so himself, it's because he needed an out. He was about to become a father. The deal wasn't the greatest, but it was better than his current state of living at that time. So, I mean, once again, I want to use the student loan comparison. Getting ready for college, deadlines are approaching. You don't know where you're going to get the money from. Hey, sign this document and we'll give you the money. But then you get screwed over when it comes to interest and things like that. So, yeah, I learned the hard way myself, and I'm still paying the price for that. So, I just feel like since he's such a heavyweight in the industry, he has the pull and the power and the fan base to make this kind of thing happen. So, that was a power move. That's a power move. I mean, yeah, the comparison could be made with Taylor Swift re-recording her, songs and whatnot. But I mean, for Dave to get Netflix of all things to take down a show, that's incredible. So I feel like he said, this is why I F with Netflix. So I can't wait to see what kind of a deal they're going to come up with next in regards to specials and whatnot. And like he said, I thought about bringing the Chappelle show back, but then it's like, well, if I do, I can't call it the Chappelle show because of legal reasons. So who's to say that by the end of all this, if things do get worked out on the Viacom Comedy Central end, there might be a Chappelle show part 2 or a new kind of show he's going to do. But either way, I just hope that if nothing else, that the people who are coming up now who want to get into the industry learn that this industry is a monster. And while the fame and the notoriety might look good on the outside, on the inside, it's terrible. Like, it might look like, I always think about, the Fairly Odd Parents when Chip Skylark in that first episode, he was in Icky Vicky. What was it? Vicky was in love with Chip Skylark. He's a pop star and everything. He's rich, but then his agent comes in. It's like, well, if you're going to marry Chip Skylark, here's the money for the car and the concerts and the touring. Basically revealing that I might be famous, but I'm in crippling debt. So that's the thing. Like, these people who they look like they have it all made. Like, again, Wildin' Out, the Dave Chappelle show. You think Nick Cannon and Dave Chappelle will be making bank, but in reality, they don't own it, and they aren't making much of anything at all. So I just think about what was the names? The two guys that created Superman. They sold it for like $50, and next thing you know, Superman blows up. Like the comic books, they make the Christopher Reeve movie. Excuse me. And I don't want to get into the full, debate about who should get paid and who isn't. Like, well, they created them, they should get paid. But it's like, well, if you signed over the rights, then it's kind of like, because I believe there was some kind of deal worked out where they would make some compensation, because at the time of the Superman film, the two creators were living in the slums of New York or wherever the hell they were living. Basically, they weren't living good at all. And it's like one of those things where morality trumps legal, fairness, where It sucks. It isn't fair, but that's the game. Business is business. Once you sign that dotted line, that's it. But if you become a powerful player who can sit at the table and it's like, hey, you screwed me over, so let me see, if we can work things out, or I can screw you over the same way. That actually says a lot now, where the person who doesn't have the legal ownership has the powerful. If nothing else, this actually shows the power of the fan base, which actually trumps the power of the industry, because without the fans, the industry can't move. So Netflix, like I said in my comment, I think they realize that if Dave isn't happy, we don't want to be mixed into this. So let's go. Honestly, they did. Apparently Monique did win that settlement with Netflix. So the last thing they want is somebody powerful like a Dave Chappelle, going against them. So they figured it would be in their best interest to remove the show and work things out for future Dave Chappelle deals, as opposed to, this one show. And I think that says a lot. So whatever happens next, I feel like it's going to be very interesting. So let me know your 2 cents on this. Do you feel like I do, where at the end of the day, business is business? And even though it's not fair from our standpoint, that's the game. Like when you sign the dotted line, you sign the dotted line. But it is very impressive when you come up in a game that's, screwed you over, but you have such a powerful fan base, reputation, and career that you're able to get a powerhouse like Netflix to, I don't want to say bend or submit to your will, but basically recognize that they didn't have to remove the show, because when it comes down to the legal, reasoning behind it, Netflix has every right to stream the Chappelle show, and Dave doesn't make a cent, but they decided not to do it. Or do you feel like, these contracts suck, everything needs to be rewritten? I always think about like the Sony and Disney back and forth about Spider-Man, where all of a sudden everybody felt like they became a lawyer and they know like, well, they could do this and that. Was like, no. MCU got the deal for a few movies, and then at the end of the day, Sony could take back Spider-Man, and then that would be it. So it's not really up to us. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, let me put it this way. When it comes to the product or what the industry puts out there, they don't really care about the fans. All they care about are the people who can make them the money. And you could argue, well, the fans make them the money. Well, true, but remember, Dave Chappelle is the face of the Dave Chappelle show. Dave Chappelle is the face of the Dave Chappelle specials. So if Dave Chappelle, or a person of that kind of notoriety and power, fan power that is able to say something and their fans respond to it, then these companies realize, okay, let's not rock the boat. Let's do what they want us to do. But when it comes down to like a Spider-Man and whatnot, it's always Spider-Man's going to make money, even if it goes to Sony. It's really the MCU that will be crippled without Spider-Man, not Spider-Man himself. So when it comes to Dave Chappelle, it's like, hey, the Chappelle show, I know there are some people who would still stream it because, like, hey, I'm the one paying for my streaming subscription, so I'm still want to watch the Chappelle show, or or whatever the case may be. I know for me, it's like I usually just watch on YouTube. Not to mention I have the DVDs. I don't even have the streaming service where it's being streamed, not on Netflix. So I honestly can't do it anyway. So yeah, that's really all I got to say. Just the industry is a monster. So are student loans. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's a matter of Dave being treated fairly? Is it a matter of, well, Dave is rich regardless, so what does it matter if he's making money or not? Let me know your 2 cents, and let's get the conversation going. Let's try to keep it civil and go from there. So if you would like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal, Cash App, or join Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next time.